Well, looking at the market yesterday, we saw the NSE, the overall index, managing to break what's been a trend over the last, six trading sessions, ending the session in positive territory. What are you making of the activity that's come to the fore?
We think, the All-Share Index actually recording a positive performance yesterday was a good news to most investors. For more than a week, it's been sliding, and we think what contributed to it largely were the activities in some of the banks, the likes of First Bank and IBTC, where we saw a lot of investor interest.
Well, certainly it's those healthy banks that are stealing investor interest at the moment. In the meantime, when it comes to the unhealthy banks, 3 international banks and some local investors have offered to take over 5 troubled banks in Nigeria. That's according to Governor Sanusi. He made that announcement in Switzerland yesterday. Market reaction to that announcement?
We think the reaction will be positive. However, it's not going to be something. We need to see more information. We need to get more information about these banks that are interested in acquiring these rescued banks. We've heard the news before that a number of international banks were looking at the books of these banks. We heard subsequently that some of them found the books very, very bad, and they were trying to retreat. So this news from the central bank governor, it's something that's going to be, we think, should impact positively in the performance of these banks, because that means that the time for these banks to be acquired will be shorter than was expected.
This in a context, though, where we've simultaneously had ratings agency S&P come out saying that Nigerian banks still pose risky business. They've got a long way to go in terms of reform. To what extent do you see that announcement now offsetting some of the positivity that's emerged on the banking front?
We think that announcement it has to be taken in the context in which it was made. If you analyze Nigerian banks as they are, you have basically 2 groups of banks, the ones that are very good and the ones that are not so good. And we think the ones that are very good, the likes of First Bank, IBTC, UBA, they will still continue to grab market share to the detriment of the rescued banks. And until we see a solution like what the central bank governor talked about yesterday in terms of the rescued banks being acquired by other banks, we may just see the gulf widening amongst these 2 banks. But we think that there is still good potential for the likes of IBTC, GT Bank and First Bank, the very good banks, to do well in the industry.
Well, certainly there's still a lot of reform that's underway. With that, the CBN has extended the recapitalization deadline that it's given to Unity Bank and Wema Bank by 3 months. How are you viewing that move? Is it the correct move to be making right now?
Well, I think it was born out of necessity. The reality on ground was that, of the 2 banks, it's only Unity Bank that had initiated visible steps in terms of recapitalization by starting out with the rights issue. We've not heard anything concrete from Wema Bank. So if the central bank had stuck to its guns, it will have had to practically liquidate the 2 banks or actually announce them as not meeting the deadline. We also realize that it's a real fact that the passing of the AMCON bill was delayed for a number of reasons, political reasons. So I think it's just a necessity for the central bank to have done what it did yesterday by extending the deadline for these 2 banks.
With that, Akeem, coming to the fore, we've got UBA, Zenith and Skybank seeing new CEOs taking the reins as of tomorrow. What is your view in terms of continuity of strategy and management in taking these banks forward?
I think, it's a good thing that these banks are actually handing over, and they are adding over to more like their deputies. The market has already factored the news into the price of these stocks, but we've seen in the last few months efforts by these banks to actually show us that there will be continuity in strategy, continuity in the style of these banks, but we'll still need to wait and see whether when these banks are in the hands of new CEOs, whether the strategies will actually be the same or whether they will change. So the jury is still out.